core questions, and then we're going to wait to answer any questions you guys have at the end of the panel, just to keep the dialogue going with them. So I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hello everyone, my name is Frank Danna, and I started out on Vine day 1, minute 3, and started building content on the platform for short form content like stop motion animation. And that actually led me to create my own media agency, which then I sold to a larger agency in Houston. Since that time, we've been producing content across all social platforms, and I've maintained influence on those platforms as well. I recently created a site to help people find and follow people on Snapchat called snapchat.codes, which is the actual URL, where you can find top influential people on the platform. So I'm very excited to do this because I'm come from a influencer space as well as the agency side. And I'm working on both creative and the background of the creative space as well. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah. I'm Robert SCOBLE. Currently I'm a futurist at RACKSPACE, but I'm quitting my job April 4th and joining Upload VR as an entrepreneur in residence, because virtual reality is just as big as Snapchat. I've been doing online media since 1983. I was the first person who had a website about ICQ. Anybody, any ICQ users? Yeah, that's the old people in the room. That came out November 1st, 1996, to 40 people, and within 6 weeks it had 65,000 users. It was the hot thing of that year. And I was 79th user of Instagram. I was early on Twitter. I was early on Facebook. I'm one of Mark Zuckerberg's 5,000 friends, and I have 8 million followers on various social networks, which doesn't really matter because I don't use it for reach the way some of the Vine stars do. I use it to build relationships with people in the industry. They're discovering a new thing, like old people are discovering Snapchat right now. The young people discovered it 2 years ago, right? They build social graphs, and after about 6 months, it is far harder to get up into people's social graphs if you come late. And that's why you need to be now on Snapchat if you're going to start reaching the audience that will show up. This year, Snapchat is going to release a connected camera. And so I think by next year at South by, Snapchat is going to be radically different than it is today. And I think we're going to be able to tell new kinds of stories. And that's why I'm playing with it. I took a week off all my social networks last week. That's sort of how I ended up on this panel. to really immerse myself and force myself to use Snapchat. Because for old people, it is hard to get into this the culture and the gestalt of the Snapchat. Even figuring out how to do various things like barking rainbows is hard because I didn't discover it the way you guys discovered it. And that's going to be a common experience with people. When I give speeches, I'm usually talking to older executives, and only 15% have Snapchat so far. So Snapchat has a lot of growth ahead of it, and a lot of money is about to move into this world.
I'm LENARDUZZI, and I am not one of Mark Zuckerberg's 5,000 friends, unfortunately. Tough act to follow, but I'm a video marketing strategist across all channels from Snapchat to YouTube, and I'm also a YouTube content creator. And one of my tutorials on YouTube, I do branding, social media, and marketing tutorials on YouTube. I created one about Snapchat and did not expect the response that I got on it, and it's now my top rated video and one of the top tutorials on YouTube. And that's driven a lot of my growth on Snapchat as a platform, so it's kind of forced me to understand it, and now I have I'm using it.
Hey everyone, my name is Virginia. Across all social platforms, I go as Ginicanbreathe, and I may not look like it with my little dress and my hat, but I come from corporate. I worked 5 years for Apple and Oracle, and I led Apple's billion-dollar iPhone distribution business EMEA-wide. And a year ago, I decided to devote myself to what I really love, which is the research of happiness. And so my platforms that I use are YouTube and Snapchat to lead a global movement of change, which is called the Catalyst Movement.
Woo!
Brian Fanzo, better known as iSocial Fans on all the channels as well. I'm a change evangelist. I'm a technology background. I actually built most of my career after Robert SCOBLE, so very, very cool thing on that side. I wrote a blog post December 4th, 2014, calling Snapchat the dumbest platform that ever existed, and that Evan was an idiot for not selling it. I quickly learned, I actually listened to a shout out to Del Mundo and Nick Cicero, that listen to podcasts and listen to some of the great Snapchatters and how they tell stories. And I own a company, partner with a company that we do strategy for Periscope and Snapchat for brands. So I think this whole influencer game is really interesting because I think the difference between, and I call it the Matthew McConaughey philosophy, no one's buying a Lincoln because he drives, or he gives you a commercial, because none of us believe that he actually drives a Lincoln. But if you go into YouTube, you go onto Vine, and you see a review of someone that actually drives a Lincoln, talking about a Lincoln, we actually believe it. So I actually go straight to the brands, I cut out the middleman, and I help them build a strategy and define what success looks like. And then I help them identify the actual right influencers, not just people with a bunch of reach that have no connection to their community that cannot actually get success. So I do a lot with the live streaming space, Facebook Live, Periscope, Blab. I did 25 hours of content for the Super Bowl on the live streaming space. And the future of social media. There's two things that I believe that are continuing to grow, and we heard that from the people before as well as we're going to hear throughout, is authenticity is going to be increased in importance, and the importance of storytelling is going to grow every single day. So I can say screw the platforms. The platforms don't pay us. The community is who we relate with, and we just use our platforms to kind of connect with our audience. And so I'll leave you with this on my intro side. You know, I believe limitations inspire creativity. And so all these people that are here, all of you that are using your different platform, I think everybody has a different creative bone in their body, and it's mainly because of limitations that the platforms put in place.
Okay, well, they're all very qualified, so let's get into the first question. So the first question is really going to be basic, just to lay the foundation. How is Snapchat different from other social networks? And specifically, I think that we all understand through relativity, and we have to compare it. We don't know what night is if we don't know what day it is, right? And so I think a lot of people, when you have a conversation with them about Snapchat necessarily, they say, I don't get it. It's just 10 seconds of video. And when you really take a deep dive into components like they mentioned, like storytelling, like influence, like attention that they talked about earlier, you understand why Snapchat has gone so viral, and its organic growth has really, really been astonishing. So the first question is from each of you, if you guys could just tell us how Snapchat is different from one social network. We're short on time, so let's just focus on one, and then talk a little bit about the elements of maybe the engagement, how it works, as well as the functionality that's different from those platforms.
How many of you watched either Saved by the Bell, Seinfeld, or Friends in the 90s? Okay. After an episode aired, you couldn't jump on a DVR and rewatch the episode, right? I mean, the notion was you had to be in front
of you to be equally ugly. They don't want you to go out to Instagram and pretty up a picture or take it with a Canon 5D. They want you to have the same access to the technology that everybody else has.
I mean, they want you to be human.
They want you to be, well, that's number two. Number two, they want to build a system where we communicate like we do as humans, back and forth. We're not recording this conversation usually at the bar, right?
Right.
We are right now because we're in front of an audience. But if we were talking at the bar, we would just be talking back and forth, and the content goes away. There's also, if we're talking back and forth at the bar, there's no likes or comments underneath. There's nobody telling us we're idiots or anything like that, right? And so there's fewer social consequences. I have a 22-year-old son, and he and his friend really spent a lot of time talking to me about consequences in high school around clicking the wrong like on the wrong girl's photo or commenting in the wrong way, and their other friends would give them shit, and then there would be consequences. And then certainly if there was consequences if they were at a party and took pictures of drinking and mom and dad found out, there was other kinds of consequences, right? So they really thought about consequences and removing a lot of the other stuff that we do on other social networks, and we all that are like whores on other social networks. And here is a different game, right?
So do you think it's better that those engagement features are not so public? Because they're there, the engagement features are there. You're seeing that eyeball, you're seeing exactly who saw that content. You can ask them to screenshot it, which is a call to action. You can actually chat now, so there's engagement there. It's just in a vacuum, in a more intimate place where not the whole world is gonna see that you like that girl's picture or you commented with that person.
It's different. I'm really glad I took a week to live in Snapchat without being on the other ones, because it forced me to really listen to people and find other stars and start watching what they're doing. Don't spend the time to do. They get frustrated Facebook. And there's a lot of things Facebook is going to be amazing at. I can do a 360 video on Facebook. I can't do that on Snapchat. I can do live video on Facebook. I can't do that yet on Snapchat.
You can FaceTime live with someone,
Yeah.
but not with the masses.
Not with the masses.
Yeah, one-on-one.
And
Yeah.
my brands are talking to the masses.
Right.
Siri was launched in my son's bedroom, and I do this professionally about talking to the public. When you're young, you don't really have anything to say to the public. You know, you don't yet have a portfolio
Right.
for it. You don't yet have a thing you want to put out there to try to get employers or brands or sponsors or anything like that, and you switch over. So there's differences philosophically, and there's differences culturally that you have to key in on. And, you know, what is the gestalt of the culture on Snapchat? It's different than on Facebook or on Twitter. And then there's differences on the features, right? And some of them are hard to discover on your own. I learned several things this week hanging out with cool people who are doing Snapchat for 2 years. They show me how to do the cool filters and stuff like that. So some of that stuff is hidden, and you have to play around with the UI and really discover hidden stuff that's underneath.
Thank you. Did anybody see that campaign, the social media isn't real campaign, where that girl on Instagram complained that she was paid a boatload of money and had to take 100 photos to get the right bikini shot? So sad for her. But the social media isn't real campaign came from a place of this time period where we were making everything look so perfect. So to follow up on what you said, the reason that Snapchat I think is blowing up so much is because it really does humanize you, and it capitalizes on imperfect moments and unprecious moments. And you can see the biggest celebrities in the world, what they do on their day-to-day basis, and we're all obsessed with that culture. That's why People Magazine has. So I think it's the imperfect, the unprecious moments of your life, and also from a customer service perspective, I find for brands, Snapchat is one of the greatest tools, because there is a sense of fear for a lot of people to speak out on other social networks, although there are the trolls and whatever, and they'll bash you left, right, and center regardless. Snapchat, I find the conversations are much more intelligent, and people will give you more honest feedback because it's in a very private forum. And if brands are doing it right, they are being human, and so people feel more comfortable talking to you, because at the end of the day, we've all said this before, people don't want to interact with the brand, they want to interact with the human, so you have to humanize your brand. And some of the brands that I think do a really great job at it are Everlane. I think they're an incredible example, so if you want a great brand to follow, as well as Subway does a really great job on Snapchat too, and I'm sure that everybody here has some other examples that they'll tell you about.
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that Snapchat really stars at is the gamification aspect. Like, we all like to play, and so on no other social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, etc., can you know, you can change the filters or whatever, but you can't, you know, draw really intricate things and, you know, change your voice. And I mean, when these like face filters came out, you know, just people are cracking up and, you know, swapping faces and doing all these things. So it really brings us back to that play aspect. And I think the oversaturation of social media, I mean, when I'm browsing, it's this. I'm not looking at anyone. Unless there's like a dick pic on Facebook, I'm not gonna stop for it. I don't know, actually. No, but, and so Snapchat is really a one-to-one experience. You know, how we were talking about the face-to-face. It's like this, I'm seeing you, and yes, I can skip, but if you're making really engaging content, you know, like Danny Burke actually says this, he says it's all about that first snap, it's that introduction, you know?
There he is, right there.
I'm sure he'll tell you all about that later. And it's such a personal experience, and that's what I love. You probably saw me passing them around before. So when you have this, it's just like a symbol, right? It's like you see this on the street corner, you're like, oh, I gotta add this person, they're on Snapchat, you know, like, let's see into their lives, like, what's gonna happen? Like, anything can show up. And that's why I've been having a lot of fun with it. I mean, because I'm a YouTuber, I've been on YouTube for 10 years, nobody gave a shit about anything I did. I was just somewhere where I could upload, you know, my travel videos and everything. And as soon as I got onto Snapchat, because I thought, well, who's gonna care about what I do? Well, people who know who I am as a person. And so I've given them that, you know, that possibility to see me every day when I just wake up, you know, those really unfiltered selfies. And, you know, within that, when I started bringing that to other platforms, and I got 500,000 reach on YouTube, you know, I mean, on Facebook within 1 month. So it just like, it changes that around because it brings people, you know, from you to your other things.
So, you know, for me, I think this is interesting. I think the idea that we're changing the way social media really is. So, you know, I I love Twitter. Twitter is I think my lifeline for all of my other social networks. It allows me to connect with the world. I actually call Twitter the global unfiltered fire hose of communities, because I believe you can connect with anyone around the world. I have lots of friends around the world. From that perspective, I use Periscope primarily as my platform for storytelling. But the ability on Snapchat to tell a story, kind of summarizing a lot of this, is it's a one-to-many posting and it's a one-to-one reply. And how many people here are tired of crap of looking at their Facebook page or their Twitter page, and the only reason people comment is because they want to be heard or they want to be seen. They don't actually want you to reply. They just reply because they want, hey, I want Robert Scoble to reply back, or I want everybody to know that, I had Tristan Tales reply back to me on Twitter. But on Snapchat, when someone replies, the only person that knows is the actual creator. So guess what that requires? You actually care. So So I told you in 2014, December 4th, I wrote the blog post that said Snapchat sucks. June 4th of this past year, I switched to using Snapchat as my first app to open every single morning. And the reason that is because every person that replies to me on Snapchat actually cares about me responding. The 63,000 followers I have on Twitter, half of them are followers. And I think it's a very important conversation we're having now. They don't call Snapchat followers, they actually call them friends, right? And so the way I look at this is, I'm very influential on Twitter without having very much of a following, and I think that's the trend we're moving towards. I'm the 9th most influential Twitter person here at South by Southwest as of yesterday, and I have 64,000 followers. Not very many followers, but my audience engages, because that's the key, and that's the thing on Snapchat. I respect the Snapchat artists beyond anything else because of that. So for me, if you're comparing these platforms, I actually believe Snapchat is exemplifying you build a community, not following. And it's not really about the platform, it's about the people connecting with you. And to your point, I love it. It's really hard to find people, but it's really hard to find friends and people that you actually care about. And it should be hard to build that following, because when you build a following on Snapchat, I celebrated. I did a dance around my apartment because I got 500 views on a story, and I have 64,000 followers on Twitter. How is that even relate, right? That's the change in mindset. Those 500 people took the time out, captured attention to actually watch a snap, compared to 60,000 people that might see a tweet when you put it out. So that's kind of how I compare the two.
Okay, so we're getting a little tight on time. I know you have to leave really quickly, so I'm just going to queue up soon. Okay, all right. So the next thing we're going to talk about really is storytelling. Because when you get down to the nitty-gritty, when it comes to no narrative to back that up, if they don't know, like Victoria said, if they don't know who you are and you haven't made them care about you, it's not going to matter. They're not going to care about what you posted. It's really, really distracting. And so what you have to make sure of is that you're storytelling. And so I want to ask you guys what you guys think are the important elements of storytelling, and how is it that Snapchat is so much better at the storytelling thing than all the other social networks? I know that a lot of people are scared about the fact that it leaves after 24 hours, but I think even with that, the storytelling components of Snapchat are so much more impactful than any other brand that I follow on any other social network. I will follow every single Snapchat that Sephora puts out because I care about that new blush that's going to come out. But I'm not following them on Instagram, and I'm not following them on Facebook. And why is that? And so the question for you guys is tell me, what is the one thing that Snapchat has done really, really well to capture storytelling? And a tip about storytelling, what is the best way to tell your story when each Snapchat is only 10 seconds, but you're able to weave them together into a complete narrative?
Brands, let me tell you something real quick. People don't care about the content that you post 10 days, 50 days, 100 days after you post it. So let me ask you a question. When was the last time you looked at an image that Mazda posted from 2 years ago? Never. So essentially what happens is brands are under the assumption that people are actually going to care about the content that they posted hours or days or weeks later. And so they're worried about Snapchat having content that disappears, because they're saying, yeah, but if there was an opportunity for somebody to go back and look, that's a lie. No one's actually going to do that, unless it's like a Super Bowl commercial. So then we have to look at the notion that Snapchat gives you the opportunity to tell because I wanted you to understand as brands why I'm saying this. It's because I love you.
1 second, I'm going to start to cut you off. Can you just really quickly, just in case anyone doesn't know, can you tell them about how the stories work?
Yeah, so
because they might not know the lingo. How do you submit it?
Right.
You can send it individually. You can send it to all of your friends.
Yeah, so what you can do with stories on the platform is you can do it a couple different ways. One, you can combine stories into an actual storyline. So you can actually build a reverse chronological order storyline that anyone can see, anyone that's following you. Or you can take a single snap or a group of snaps and send them to friends. So when I talk about stories, what I'm saying is a story that's posted to everyone that follows you, okay? So think about it from this perspective. Facebook posts have a shelf life. That means that 90% of the people that will see the content will see it in under an hour and a half. And then it's gone. Then it's essentially in sort of a quasi-valuable trash can.
It's worse than that. They won't distribute it after an hour and a half.
Exactly. So it's even worse because Facebook pulls it back. Instagram is about 45 minutes. Twitter's about an hour. So if you post a single tweet, about an hour later, 90% of the people that would have engaged with that tweet have engaged with it, and then after that, no one's engaging with it. Forever. On Snapchat, you can post pieces of stories throughout a specific day. And every time you post a piece of a story, it pushes you back up to the front of the line. Could you imagine a brand posting 15 or 20 of the same exact tweets every day? You'd be like, goodbye, and then you kick the phone into a dumpster and you light the dumpster on fire. Like no brand is willing to post the same exact content 20 times in a day. But a brand could use Snapchat to post a story with different story elements 20 times a day. And every time you post that story, or post another piece of the story, either an image or a video up to 10 seconds long, it puts you to the front of the line so that you can re-engage. Yeah. So what I'm positive on the time that people are going to engage with your content on Snapchat versus other platforms. So storytelling is powerful, and storytelling gets in front of more people because as you post content, it goes back to the front of the line, and it continues to build out that story. So it's a game changer.
Yeah. I'm thinking about what, because a lot of us are thinking in our heads, how do we build a personal brand on this? How do we, one, and then how do we use it to further the aims of brands who are going to sponsor us or whatnot? And for me, with my personal brand, I'm always thinking about who do I want to be known as, and what kind of belief system in the viewer or the participant's head do I want to put up there so that they know what they're likely to get next from me, right? They don't expect me to do porn, right? They expect me to bring them new technology, and why? Because that's what I've done since blogging came out in 2000. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm thinking about it right now. I have not yet begun to tell a good story on Snapchat because the gestalt and the culture is different than I'm thinking about. But where I'm heading is I'm going to tell very specific stories that are going to tell the audience what they're likely to get next from me. And it's going to be a consistent kind of thing, and it's going to be very iterative. And the people who do it well in this room or outside, like my sister is one that I'm watching. He's an investor. Every day he gives me a little investor tip, right? And it fits into the culture, and it's good. And people that stop by are talking about him as being one of the examples of an old guy who's using it to further a story. And that's what I'm going to try.
So do you think that if you told that story on, how does he feel the need to do it on Snapchat? How does he feel like Snapchat provides a different value?
Because there's a different look at all the people in this room. We care about a new platform all of a sudden because the kids cared about it, and the kids cared about it. They're dragging in the rest of us, right? If I want to talk to my 22-year-old, I got to probably do it on Snapchat. I get faster responses from them on Snapchat than I do on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Right? And so the people who are under 25 are pulling us in, and they're gonna pull us in, and then they're gonna hate it, right? Because
they're gonna move on.
They're gonna move on to something else, maybe, but maybe not. Snapchat has a lot of life in front of it. I don't believe a lot of kids have moved on from Facebook. Everybody says Facebook's dead. No, I see the same kids on Facebook when it's appropriate, right? Because there's some things you can't do on Snapchat. Some things you need to go over to Twitter for. Some things you need to go to Instagram for. Use the right tool for the right job. You can't tell all stories on Snapchat. Sometimes you want to go to Medium and write a long-ass blog post, right, about why you quit your job. But you can't do that on Snapchat in 10 seconds and have it resonate with people. You can say to your Snapchat audience, hey, I just wrote a Medium post, explain why I quit my job. Go read it, right? And everybody knows where you are. If they're on Snapchat, they know.
Or you could do a video which is 2 minutes with different segments, which I know Sunny does a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that amazing segue. You were thinking what I was thinking. So from the content creation perspective for me, so I've been making videos on YouTube for a while now, but Snapchat changed the game for me because I'm now downloading my content on Snapchat and incorporating it into my YouTube videos. And I think the big thing with it is you can't think that it's 10-second portions. You just think of it as it is a story. That's why they called it a story. So when you're mapping out the content for the day, think about it as a whole and not these different little chunks that you're going to break it out into. So for me, that's a big part of it. And a video. But video is the hotness right now. That's why Facebook is pushing it so hard. Every single platform has got it in the last year. Live streaming has now become such a huge thing. And Snapchat allows you to dive into video and be a part of it without that fear factor. And people don't expect, like I said before, perfection on Snapchat. So think of it as a content creation tool, and you can repurpose that content on other platforms as well to grow your following.
Okay, so who here has ever edited a video?
Yeah. There's a
Right?
few communicators in the room.
It sucks. I've been on YouTube for 10 years, and when I make Casey Neistat-ass vlogs, it takes me like till 4 a.m. to edit it. So if you want to talk about ROI, time is the best indicator, okay? And the time that goes into editing any type of video content, all the money that you're paying your video team and your editors, which is a lot, you can save that. You're welcome. And so,
It's true.
it really is. And so that's why I changed from YouTube to Snapchat really quickly, because all of a sudden, I'm creating in the moment. Your post-production is zero if you're not a fancy drawer like these guys, which I do not know how to do. But you can write captions. You have everything you need as a video creator. And that's why I also think that vertical video in the future is going to become really, really popular, because we all want to save time. We have things to do. And so that's just what I love about it, because it's live creation in this very moment. And yeah, so that's the #1 ROI that I can give you guys.
So, for me, I look at storytelling as, this is the difference between storytelling and broadcasting. Storytelling requires listening and understanding the audience. Create value, create great content. What the hell is great content? And how many people want to create a viral video? All that nonsense that's spewed out there. Well, viral, great content, and what is actually valuable is not determined by you, the creator. It's determined by your audience. And the nice part about storytelling, and I think this is something that's essential, is that when you're a great storyteller, you listen to your audience. And you know what you listen really easily on Snapchat? I'm a geek. I love creating a story on Snapchat and figuring out where people eject, where people stop watching that story. And all of a sudden I dropped down 100 views when someone said, okay, I'm bored out of my mind. Stop doing whatever your story is. Well, now when I'm creating a blog post, I now stop telling that blog post at that exact same spot. So I use a term called upcycling, and I recommend every person, every brand, stop creating content for content's sake. Start focusing on creating great content on whichever platform you want to, and then upcycle it. And my term upcycling just means you take great content and then you shape it for all of your other audiences. So I worked with Tristan Tales and a lot of the actual Snapchatters here at the Luxor, and we did this huge story behind the scenes, and it's my favorite, well, not because I'm in it, maybe. Tristan blew my mind. I had no idea the creativity that went into a Snapchat story. But what I did was I Periscope behind the scenes, and Periscope live streaming, what it is it's unfiltered and raw. It just gives people a window into you as a creator. So for me, storytelling, part of the thing that's crazy is, like Sean, I had no idea how much time it takes Sean to create the crazy amount of graphics that Sean creates. But whenever he started firing it up on Meerkat and firing up on Periscope, my respect level for him went out the roof. All of a sudden, I started following everything he was doing. So for me, the element of storytelling is actually listen to your audience. You create great content wherever you are, and then understand and adapt that content to Snapchat. And the other thing about Snapchat is it's acquired attention. Thumb stopper. Thumb stopper is someone that said, when I was in Dublin last week, someone said, do you create thumb stopper content? And I was like, thumb stopper? And if you think about it, we scroll through Instagram like this. We scroll through our Facebook feed like this. I don't scroll through Twitter. I use Twitter lists and tweet text, so I don't even really scroll through Twitter like that. But do you create thumb stopper content? Well, on Snapchat, it's thumb stopper content because you watch it. And so I get captivated by the creators that are doing it on there. And the storytelling on Snapchat, I think the difference here for me is if you want to go see my adventures here at South by, I tweet them out all day long. When you go to my Twitter feed and you start scrolling down, guess what you see? Right now, 3 minutes ago, 8 minutes ago. When you go to my Snapchat feed, you see 23 hours and 59 minutes ago forward. You actually see the story created like a story. And that's something that can't be underestimated. To your point about editing, you can do jump cuts. You know how hard it is to do jump cuts and download and do all of those things? So the idea of understanding, and I guess my recommendation is, if you don't understand the storytelling on Snapchat, follow about 80% of the people in this room that are some of the very, very best at it. And the cool thing about storytelling is, you will never be perfect on it. I've studied Martin Luther King, I've studied Steve Jobs, I've studied Sandy Zuckerberg. They all do it differently. And the key about it is they understand their audience.
Can I just give you an example about viral videos? Damn, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah, to close out and to just round things out, I mean, I think we all understand now that storytelling is very powerful. Being able to resonate, being able to understand the elements of a story, even if they're not perfect, actually make a huge impact. And just like they said, the thumb stopper? Yeah, I mean, that is a great example, right? When they're taking the time to click on your content every time you update it, that matters. It's not showing up on their feed on Twitter, it's not showing up on their feed on Facebook for that impression to count. When they're looking at that content, they are paying attention because that's the only thing on this screen right here. And so I want to thank you guys all for sharing your insights. I think it was really, really valuable. Definitely follow all these folks on social, specifically Snapchat. We have another panel coming up around influencers, but before that, I want to ask Ian Walsh to come up here. He is from Track Maven. He's going to tell us a little bit about them. And I want to thank you guys for sponsoring this awesome event.
Thank you.